This is called the SLC, and it comes from Superlight Cars. And the first thing that grabs your attention is this is not a replica. This is an original car that's every bit as exotic as anything on the road today. But it's not just on the road, it's also tearing up racetracks around the country.
We race a car that has the same chassis as our street car, the same body as our street car, all the same suspension pickup points as our street car.
The SLC dominated the Super Unlimited class in the NASA series last year with blindingly fast lap times that resulted in numerous track records, giving the SLC a legitimate racing heritage just like the McLarens and Shelbys back in the day.
We ran against big turbo Mustangs, we ran against Viper challenge cars that are well modified, comp coupes, lots of very high-end cars. These are well-developed cars.
Now, keep in mind that to run over 200 miles an hour safely is not cheap. I mean, it takes special wheels and tires and brakes and aerodynamics and all kinds of stuff. But it doesn't have to be crazy expensive either. This Lamborghini with its twin turbo setup cost you about $300,000. An SLC cost you around $44,000. And for that price, what you get is a roller like this here, with all the major components, the suspension, the body, all fitted so you know where they go. Then you take this foundation, put in the drivetrain, the interior, do the paint work, finish it up into the vehicle that you want it to be. Now, some of you guys are looking at this going, $44,000? I mean, there's a lot of kit cars out there that are half that price. And you're right, there are. But you'll notice I didn't call this a kit car because it doesn't come in a bunch of boxes for you to figure out how it goes together. Remember, you get what you pay for. By the time we're done showing you what goes into building one of these things, you're not going to be able to believe that you can buy it for only $44,000. In the early 1990s, Fran Hall came to the United States with years of experience in European auto racing under his belt. Following the American dream, it wasn't long before he was working for General Motors in their racing and IndyCar program.
During that time, started getting involved with building my own car for myself, which was a GT40 replica. I was a little disappointed with what I'd purchased, although I'd bought what was supposed to be the industry standard, the best you could buy from the best manufacturer, and it really just wasn't what I wanted to build as a car.
Then in 2005, he opened Race Car Replicas and quickly became one of the top replica car manufacturers in the world. Located in Michigan, RCR is able to pull on the best automotive talent in the country to create kits of the legendary Ferrari P4, the Porsche 917, and the Lola T70. However, it's their GT40 replica that really got people's attention. Using a true monocoque aluminum tub just like the original cars, the RCR GT40 just oozes quality and craftsmanship.
So I just set about to do my own, and I wanted it to look like a real GT40 chassis, but made simpler, something I could build myself because I was only building one, and I was only building it for me. And I wanted to drive it, I didn't want to spend the rest of my life building it. Some friends of mine saw it, and they're like, that's a great idea. Will you make me one? I was kind of reluctant to start with, and then just went from there and made one, made two, made 10, made 20, made 50.
It's so good, in fact, that 3 of them played a huge role in the movie Fast 5. But as cool as these cars are, they're still replicas. So Fran decided that he wanted to do something similar to what Carroll Shelby and Bruce McLaren did back in the day and offer an original supercar that a guy can put together for about the price of a new Z06 Corvette, and that would also smoke anything on the road or track no matter what the cost. So he started Superlight Cars and developed the SLC.
Every boy's dream is to do their own thing. Yeah. And that's where the SLC came from.
The SLC is based on a semi-monocoque aluminum frame with the full monocoque tub in front and aluminum frame rails in the back. Now the whole thing is jigged up and TIG welded by hand by the guys at Response Welding in Detroit, and these things are a work of art when they're finished. Using aluminum not only keeps the weight down, but it also makes for an incredibly strong structure when it's all done.
You have to have lots of tubes going in different directions as opposed to doing a correctly designed flat panel. It takes that load and it spreads it over a bigger area, and it's actually safer and stronger than doing a tube design.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where we are just starting to put together a supercar called the SLC from Superlight Cars. Now, the difference between this car and all the other kit cars and component cars that are out there is that this one is sitting on an all-aluminum semi-monocoque chassis. Now, I know some of you guys are probably going, what the heck is a monocoque, man? Well, it's basically a fancy name for a unibody, meaning that this aluminum tub is your frame. But the difference in this monocoque and the unibody in your Mustang or Camaro is that those are spot welded together, so they're gonna flex on you. That's why you gotta use subframe connectors to stiffen it all back up. This monocoque, as you can see, it's all seam welded, it's gusseted, it's stressed up. These things are mathematically designed to be the stiffest thing out there. There's a ton of engineering that goes into this. Race cars have been using these things since the 60s, but because of the engineering and the cost that goes into them, nobody offers it in a component car except Superlight.
We put this chassis, the SLC chassis, on the Australian test rig. This is a government certified test rig. The chassis was so strong that we pulled the anchors out of the floor of the building. And I think that's the first time that's happened.
Now, as you can see, there are no frame rails up here. Check it out. The suspension components bolt right to the tub utilizing steel brackets, so nothing's going to wear or wallow out on you. And the tub itself is a 1/4 inch thick. So all the load from the suspension travels into the tub and it's dispersed. Now, some of you guys might be thinking, well, aluminum, it's kind of soft, isn't it? It's going to crack, it's going to bend. Not if it's done like this. It's what they make airplane wings out of. If it's good enough for a jet, it's good enough for a supercar. But there's more to this than just an aluminum monocoque. Notice the suspension components, not a single piece is off a donor vehicle. These are whittled out of aluminum right there at Superlight, and they feature all kinds of adjustments so you can dial in your caster and camber for road or track use. Rack and pinion steering, coil-over shocks, and big Brembo disc brakes round out the steering, suspension, and braking in the front. The all-aluminum construction continues in the rear of the car with a square tube frame coming off of the monocoque and forming a cradle for the engine and the rear suspension. As you can see, everything is triangulated and supported, so you have incredible strength. And just like the front, the rear suspension features billet control arms mounted in a traditional fashion, and then a very unique push rod coilover system that was designed to get the coils up out of the way to make room for whatever engine and transaxle you want to stick in this thing.
I really don't see anybody in our hand-built component car world doing anything even comparable to what we do. We don't use donor components from a wrecked car. Everything is brand new, everything is designed bespoke for our cars, which means we don't have the compromises of bump steer and suspension geometry that's not what we want it to be. We can package wheels and brakes that we need to package for the car's performance, to make them fit in the wheel wells nicely, to do everything we want them to do, to be a real car, not a facsimile of somebody else's car turned into something else.
Now, even though the SLC comes to you as a roller, it is a long way from being done. You still have to build it, which means you need to be prepared to blow this thing apart because you've got a lot of assembly and painting and plumbing and wiring and fabrication and all that stuff that you have to do when you are hand building a vehicle. But they definitely make it easy on you. Now, once you've got the suspension all torqued down to spec, you're ready to move on to some plumbing. As you can see, we have preformed brake lines and coolant tubes. So all you have to do is put them in and make them look good. This aluminum box is next, and it bolts right to the front of the tub, and it allows you to mount some pretty important stuff. Check it out. Got your radiator, you've got an air conditioning unit that'll fit in here, you got your reservoirs for your master cylinders, and all kinds of other stuff, all of which come with a kit, so it's up to you to get it in place and put it together. All right, now we come to the only steel tubing on the car, and that's this roll cage. Now notice we've got a hoop here in the front, one in the back. It's tied together with stringers here, and then those continue back in the back, tying everything together, making an incredibly strong structure. Now, as you can see, we have a very sophisticated chassis going together here. This alone is almost worth the purchase price. But the thing that you're going to notice as we continue to put this car together is, number one, how easy it is to build. Number two, how incredible it's going to be when it's done.